Okay, happy Friday, everyone. Today we're going to continue with the Dark Ages. So yesterday we did our Dark Ages day one. You made kind of a first claim. What did you think? Were they dark? Were they not so dark? And today we're going to keep looking at documents to decide. So our directions: individually read or view documents 4, 5, and 6. Part 1, complete the chart below. That will look just like the chart from yesterday. Part 2, 3, and 4, complete your final claim, evidence to support it, and find a counter piece of evidence. We'll go over all of that. So let's just scroll down, and kind of look at our chart. Again, this looks really similar to yesterday. Okay, is this a primary or secondary source? According to this document only, were the Dark Ages really dark? Why or why not? And direct evidence from the document to support the answer from number 2. Okay, so from right here. The only difference is you don't have a claim yet for this document, so you don't have to say if it supports your claim because you haven't written one yet. Okay, so let's look up at document 4. This is an excerpt from a textbook. And right away, if we're looking down at the source information down here, we can see that it was written in 2002, so only 18 years ago, right? So this is definitely going to be a secondary source. So let's read, and again, we can highlight as we go any information that might help to decide, was it dark or was it not dark, according to only this document. From 1000 CE to 1300 CE, the economy of Europe developed and prospered. Okay, so that means they were making money, they were doing well, so I would say that's something to highlight. Available farmland tripled and food supply increased, bringing up the population. Europeans resettled lands that had been depopulated by the 9th and 10th century invasions and also opened new lands for farming. Okay, that seems good, right? New lands are opening up. Technological improvements like the heavy plow, the shoulder collar for horses, metal horseshoes, so like that we still use today for horses, and more efficient water and windmills contributed to the jump in food supply. That seems important, right? Some innovations, improvements happening. Between 500 CE and 1300 CE, Europe's population grew from 25 million to more than 17 million. Again, I would say that that's an important thing, right? If you are struggling, your population is not going to go up, it's going to go down, right? So according to this document, the Dark Ages were not really dark. I'm going to take, I think, the evidence about the technology improvements just because I think that's easiest to justify. Oops, sorry. So let's go down. Again, this was written in 2002. So we're going to say it's a secondary source. According to this document only, were the Dark Ages really dark? They're saying no, right? They were not really dark because there were improvements in technology, right? And again, I already copied that piece of evidence that we had highlighted, so I'm just going to paste it right there. So technological improvements like the heavy plow, the horseshoes, all of that contributed to a jump in the food supply. And again, secondary source written in 2002. Okay, let's go look at document 5. So this is some records from an abbey. An abbey is a place that nuns and monks for the church would live. So let's go look at that. Okay, document 5. Read the excerpt below. When you are finished, complete the chart for document 5. And if you notice, there's a couple words that are bolded. That's because it gives you definitions right up here. The following document is from the yearly records of the Abbey of Xanten, a city in modern-day Germany. An abbey is a place where Catholic monks and nuns live. The document describes Europe's troubles in the mid-century CE. It focuses on invasions by heathens or non-Christian barbarian tribes. So when they say that word heathen, they're meaning one of these tribes that were coming and attacking, and they were not Catholic. Specifically, it mentions the Vikings or Northmen and Saracens, Arab tribes. Most of the names mentioned are cities or areas in Germany. Gaul is basically modern-day France, and Christendom is the Christian part of Europe. Okay, so just to give you some context. Right, so right away we're seeing these are yearly records from this abbey. So these were written at the time, that it was going on, each year. And obviously it's excerpts from it, it's little parts. But it is from the yearly record. So right away, before we even read it, we could go down here and say it's a primary source, right? It is from the time. Okay, so let's read and we're going to decide, was it really dark or not really dark according to these records. Sorry. Twice there was an earthquake. So this is 845 CE. In the same year, the heathen broke in upon the Christians at many points, but more than 12,000 of them died. Another party of invaders devastated Gaul, and more than 600 of them died. So this one seems like it's about a lot of invasions. I'm just going to highlight those parts about the invasions. 846 CE. According to their custom, the Northmen plundered, they destroyed, eastern and western Frisia and burned down the town of Dordrecht with 2 other villages before the eyes of Lothair, the emperor. He was in the castle of Nimwegen. Again, all these names, they're just cities. You don't need to really worry about that. But could not punish the crime. The Northmen returned to their own country with many men and goods, so they robbed them and kidnapped people. At this same time, the Saracens killed all the Christians whom they found outside the walls of Rome. They also carried men and women away as prisoners. Their crimes from day to day bring sadness to Christians. So I'm going to highlight that part about the kidnapping, the robbery, right? The killing. Sounds pretty bad. 849 CE. The heathen from the north caused trouble in Christendom as usual and grew greater in strength. But it is revolting to say more of this matter. So they're saying it's like too bad to even write down. So not really much to highlight there, but again, seems like bad things were happening. 853 CE, a great famine, so not enough food, in Saxony, so that many were forced to live on horse meat. So they had to eat their horses. Okay, so not enough food. That's definitely bad. Again, this is a modified excerpt from, these records written by the Abbey's monks in the middle of the 9th century. So again, primary source, which is why we wrote that. So I think I'm going to take this quote from the 846 CE as my direct evidence, just because it's talking about the killing, the robbing, the kidnapping. So I think that's a good one. So I'm going to bring that down, copy that. And according to this document only, were the Dark Ages really dark? They would say yes, right? These monks and nuns would definitely say they were really dark, due to many invasions and killing and deaths, right? Okay, and we have our evidence. So, document 6, a video, How Dark Were the Dark Ages? So let's look up there. And if you notice now, your evidence can be paraphrased for this one. So there's not going to be like a nice part that we can pause it like there was yesterday with that chart. So you're really just going to have to paraphrase. So if you open up Edpuzzle, this is, again, your second video that we're going to be watching. So how dark were the Dark Ages? This one's a little bit longer than yesterday. So why don't you go ahead, pause my video to watch your Edpuzzle, and then when you're ready, you can replay my video and we'll keep going. Okay, so at this point, you should be done with the Edpuzzle. So let's go back, to our chart. Again, this obviously is a secondary source, right? The man in the video was not alive during the Dark Ages, thousands of years ago. According to this video, were the Dark Ages really dark? He definitely said they were not really dark, right? His whole point is saying that it's a misunderstood time period that doesn't deserve this name. So they were not really dark because, and he talked about a lot of different things. One part, he talked about the cathedrals, but because we already have that from yesterday, I'd maybe try to pick something different. He talked about new universities were made. He talked about like philosophers, kind of some great thinkers of the time. So I'm going to say maybe because new universities were created. Oops, make sure we spell that right. And again, your evidence can be paraphrased here. So, it doesn't have to be a direct quote because that's a little hard to get. So I'm going to just say new universities were built across Europe during the Middle Ages, and many people attended these schools, right? So that's what he talked about, that there was these different thinkers, different people, who attended these universities. and got an education. So that's really saying that it was not this kind of terrible dark time, when some of the first colleges, some that still exist today, were created. Okay. So we have our chart now complete. And let's also go back, and I want you to open up your Dark Ages Day 1 document as well, because for these next parts, you're going to need both, right? So if you see directions, using all of the information you learned from Dark Ages Day 1 and Dark Ages Day 2, write a final claim. So why don't you pause my video for a minute and go open up your Dark Ages Day 1 to review your chart. Okay, so again, at this point, you should have both of them open. I'm just going to close the Edpuzzle. So you have your chart from yesterday, which again, probably looks similar to mine if you used my video. And you also wrote a claim yesterday. So what I want you to think about, do you want to stick with your claim or do you want to change it? You can change sides. That's allowed. So if you said yesterday they were really dark and now you think they were not really dark, you can swap sides. If you want to stay the same, you can stay the same. Maybe you said they were really dark and you still think that. Keep it the same. Whatever you want. And you want to make sure these two reasons that you're going to write in your final claim, that you have evidence to support them. So look at documents 1, 2, and 3. Look at the evidence you gathered. Look at documents 4, 5, and 6 from today. Look at the evidence you gathered. And you want to make sure that you have a claim that makes it really clear, what evidence you're going to be using. So the Dark Ages were or were not really dark because, and again, you need two reasons that should be supported by something that you have evidence for. So if you're going to say they were not really dark and you maybe just wanted to use today's documents, it could be because there were new improvements in technology and new universities were built. If you want to say they were really dark, because there were invasions, and if we go back to day 1, a lack of government, right, or few cultural advances. So thinking about what you want to use. So take a minute, look through your evidence, look through both days, day 1 and day 2, and write your final claim here in part 2. So pause me and do that, and then unpause when you're ready. Okay, part 3, evidence to support your claim. This should be the evidence, that supports these two reasons you just wrote. Okay, so again, if you right now are looking for your evidence, you're like, I can't find any, then you need to change your claim up so that it matches, right? So that you have reasons that are directly supported by evidence. So all you need to do here is write the document number. So if you're taking from document 4, you would write like 4. Your evidence, again, you already have it copied and pasted. So you could just, if you're using that, copy and paste it. If you're using 5, you write document 5, copy and paste that. Document 6, copy and paste that. You can also use yesterday's document. So if you want to use document 1, copy and paste that. Document 2, copy and paste that. Document 3, copy and paste that. Okay, so get all of that, both pieces of evidence, again, to support your two reasons that are up here. Okay, so pause and make sure you do your copying and pasting. And again, make sure it directly supports your two reasons in your claim. So pause this video and take a minute to do that. Okay, so part 4, and this is a tricky part, evidence for the other side. Find one piece of direct evidence from the documents or videos. Again, documents 1 through 6 can be used from this document or yesterday's Dark Ages Day 1 that show the opposite side of the debatable question. Were the Dark Ages really dark? So if your claim right up here says they were really dark, like that's your claim that you're sticking with, your evidence supports they were really dark, then you need to find evidence down here that says they were not really dark. Okay, so if you said they were really dark, evidence you could say from today's document would be from document 6 or document 4, right? So again, you're just copying and pasting one piece of evidence for the other side. If your claim, part 2 above, says they were not really dark because reason, you need to find a piece of evidence that says they are, or really it should be, they were really dark. Okay? And again, just from today's, if you don't want to be flipping back and forth, here's a piece of evidence that says they were really dark. So you would say document 5 and just copy and paste that. So this is just to get one piece of evidence that shows the opposite of your claim. So something that somebody who's saying the opposite could use in their CEIs. Think about it that way. Okay, so why don't you take a minute, pause this video. Again, one piece of evidence, make sure just, write the document number like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whichever one, and then copy and paste the evidence for the opposite side. If you said they were really dark, this evidence should support that I'm just going to capitalize this, were not really dark. If you said were not really dark, this evidence should support that they were really dark, right? So opposite. Okay, so pause this, get that done. Okay, and again, just a note at this bottom, this document is classwork and homework. It is due Monday, April 20th at 8:59 a.m., but turn it in whenever you finish. So if you're done now and it's Friday, just turn it in. If you didn't finish the whole video on Friday, just whenever you're finishing this, make sure that you turn it in when you are done. Okay, and at this point, again, you should have your chart on Dark Ages Day 2 done, your final claim, your evidence for your claim, evidence for the other side, as well as, your chart from Dark Ages Day 1. Okay, so other than that, have a good weekend, and we are going to check in about all of this work on Monday. So Monday's kind of be a review day about the Dark Ages.